be with this group tonight in this way. And I just want to thank Coral for inviting me. And also want to just take a moment to honor and acknowledge the lineage that that I practice in, which is a Theravada lineage that is more specifically in the insight tradition, but that derives from teachings from Asia, and that Theravada Buddhism is practiced mostly today in Burma and Sri Lanka and in Thailand. So I just want to acknowledge the teachings that have come from monastics and lay practitioners and scholars from those places to the teachers who began the tradition that I practice in now in the country where I live, which is the United States. And I also want to honor the True North Insight Mentorship where I met Coral and Arti, who are both here and in this program. And just to offer my gratitude for the teachings that are coming to me through that, and just through Buddhism in general. And I also want to honor my teacher on the goddess path, Kibele, who I've been working with for many, many years, and she is a really important influence and mentor for me. So everything that I offer comes through the teachers who I have been honored to find in this life. And I just want to say that. And also, thank you for the space to acknowledge the land. And I want to also just remember that we are in the earth and the earth is in us. And I like to begin there with my own practice. The other thing I want to say is that, by way of acknowledgement, is that today is my grandmother's birthday. She's not, she's in the spirit realm now, but I just want to invoke her because she is a blessing in my life, and offer her my blessing in return. Blessings on you, Grandma Ada. So it feels very auspicious that it's her birthday and I'm doing this today, and I've never really done this before. So I've facilitated peer groups and things like that. So this is the first time I'm doing something like this. So it's very exciting for me. And it was funny when you asked, like, how are you feeling right now? And I was thinking, I feel excited. And then was kind of laughing to myself that I'm excited about loss, to talk about loss and grief. But it's that mixture. It's that mixture. And when I talked to Coral, and Coral said, what do you want to talk about in your time with Queer Sangha? We were kind of talking about different things, and I was just saying, well, loss is really what's so present with me right now, and maybe it's too fresh to talk about, because one of my parents died last month. My father died in March, so it's very, very fresh. And but as we talked about, it was like, well, that's what's present. And even if it feels a little bit extra vulnerable, or maybe a little bit edgy to talk about it, it feels like it would be actually hard to talk about anything else. And then just a sense too that other people are in a space of loss for different reasons. I guess we all are all the time in some ways. Yeah, loss. I've been thinking about that word, and yeah, just this sense of like something was there and now it's not. And what is that experience? Or something was like this and now it's like that. Something has changed. And I've been thinking about it in relation to this death in my life of my father, and then also being a parent myself. And when Coral asked me for a picture, for some reason, the picture I sent them was like this picture that just popped up that's from like 7 years ago of me with my child. And that kid is like a completely different creature now. And so that was, but I felt drawn to that picture. And then I started thinking, well, I guess that brings up loss too. Just this change in form that that I experience with my kid a lot. And like, where did that baby go? And where did that person who I was go? And so loss in many forms. And one of the kind of realities of the loss of my parent that I've been I guess contemplating is the way that his absence has changed everything for me. So it's not just that this one person who was there is not there. Everything is different. The whole world has kind of rearranged itself, but I don't know how. So that loss of orientation also is part of what I'm experiencing, that I don't really know where things are, and I don't know what their relations to each other are right now. And there's a part of me that keeps wanting to find my orientation again, and also wants to know how long I'm going to be disoriented. And then realizing I'm not oriented, and I don't know when I will be, and I don't know what it will be like. It won't be like it was before. Even when supposing I feel oriented again in my life, I won't feel oriented in a way that I ever have before. Things will be new, and there will be new relationships between things. And in a way, that's always happening. Things are moving around, and they're changing form, and they're changing in regard to each other. And when one thing changes, everything changes. And I've been thinking about how these teachings that we find about interconnectedness or interdependence, they can make sense in different ways at different times. And sometimes they're more abstract or just very beautiful ideas. And then for me right now, that one, that everything is connected and everything affects everything else, is so graphically present in my life in a way that is sometimes feels really fresh, and other times just feels so overwhelming and difficult. And I think I was joking with you, Coral, about how when they came up with the 5 stages of grief, they forgot the 6th stage, the cheese puff stage of grief. The stage where you just eat cheese puffs and chocolate and watch TV because you can't do anything else. If at all possible, whenever possible. So my cheese puffs practice has been very strong in the last month and a half, and I feel like that's kind of when the freshness of the disorientation and everything being connected to everything else is too much. It's like that feels very reliable. Cheese puffs. TV can be tricky because you never know what you're going to get. But I kind of know what cheese puffs are going to give me. So I said something about swimming in the ocean of loss because of that feeling of disorientation, in the sense the ocean, if you were swimming in the middle of it, you wouldn't know how big it was around you, and you wouldn't know when it was going to end, like when you were going to get to land. And you wouldn't know, like, right now I'm swimming in this part and maybe it's okay. And then in a little bit, maybe it feels really cold or there's a really big wave. And so one of the things that helps me a lot right now is just letting it be real, that that's my situation. I feel different ways about it at different times, but the truth of it feels, I guess it's orienting in itself in a way, and also just real. I don't know. I was talking to a friend about it, actually someone who's in our training, and I was saying I want to know how much longer I'm going to feel this way. And she said, maybe this is just something to know, like this experience of loss and grief. Maybe it's just something to know. And it gave me a little place to stand for a minute. So I think about that too, not just in relation to loss and grief, but like anything. Just meeting it with that sense of this can be known, or this wants to be known. This is here to be known. And I guess death wants to be known. And it is necessary. Other kinds of loss are too. Endings of relationships, changing of relationships, changing of our social field, the way that things in the world around us change. And with death, it's interesting because I was sitting with my father a lot when he was dying, and it felt just like the most regular thing in the world, just so natural. Like his body was running out of steam, and I was watching that happen, and there was just no way to reverse it, and there was nothing wrong. And I got used to that feeling, like this is just what's happening, and here I am, and here you are. It's really weird. I can't believe your body's doing this. I can't believe this is really happening, but it's also very ordinary and just physical and real. And then I think I started thinking, well, that's going to be my relationship to this experience of loss. And then after he died, it didn't feel that way at all. And I've been struggling to even know what it is that it feels like. And I realized that we can know that death is not wrong and that it's ordinary and that it's necessary, but it still feels like a ripping away. And that can be very harsh, very, very harsh. And so also just letting that be known. And as somebody who practices Buddhism, of course, I'm thinking about, okay, this is impermanence. Like, this is what everyone, in this tradition talks about a lot, impermanence. But again, it's sort of like this word impermanence and then this experience. They don't necessarily feel like they're completely dovetailing with each other. Like, impermanence has a kind of poetry to it, and it's also a word and a concept. And then I've just been really trying to ask myself, what is this experience of impermanence? And I read this sutta, and I can't remember. I can try to find it later and maybe give it to Coral if I can't remember the name of the sutta right now. But in it, they say that the Buddha says that, you could make merit in like a million, it's one of those really extravagant lists of things that you could do that would be so amazing, like giving these incredible gifts to, the awakened ones and the monastics and just doing so much merit making in your life and in lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes upon lifetimes and eons. And it would never be as valuable as grasping impermanence for a fraction of a second. If you could grasp the truth of impermanence for the fraction of a second, then that would be like this meritorious thing beyond all reckoning. And I've been thinking about that because I'm living in the midst of this huge change and I don't understand it. Even though I described to you watching this very natural process happen, I still feel like, where did you go? So, what really is impermanence as we experience it? What really is it? What is it in our bodies? What is it in our hearts? What is it in our lives? I'm really asking that. And thinking about impermanence and thinking about the three marks of existence: impermanence, the unsatisfactoriness of clinging, and not self or emptiness. Just been really asking myself about each of those. And so I'm just offering up this contemplation for us. When we think of impermanence, how do we relate to that? What is it for us, really? And what is emptiness for us, really? One of my teachers, who's actually a scholar, Charles Hallisey, described emptiness. He said things are so full of potential that they're empty of fixity. Things are so full of potential that they're empty of fixity. Feels like a very queer definition of emptiness. And I love it because it also feels energizing and full, as opposed to forbidding. And when I think about clinging and the unsatisfactoriness of clinging, of dukkha, that one I really feel like I have a handle on. I can feel that. I don't know about you. Like, clinging, what does that feel like? I gave my niece a picture of my dad because she saw it on my altar and she just said, I love that picture. And I said, oh, well, you can have it. And then she left my house and I suddenly felt like stabbed with this horrible pang of like, I gave her that picture and it's this really old picture and there's only one copy. And I just felt horrible. Like, why did I do that? I needed that picture. And I was thinking about the precept of not taking what isn't freely offered. And I was like, that wasn't freely offered by me. And I took it from myself and gave it away. And that was true in a way. Like, I really wasn't sure if that was really generosity or just reaction or what. But then I just kept following that, clinging to that picture. And it ended up being a chance for me to feel so much sorrow. Just so much sorrow. It was like I felt just beside myself with that feeling about that picture. And then I just said, the picture is gone. What's here? And it was just so much sorrow. And then I just cried and cried. And I don't do that very often. Actually, just, like crying really hard. That's the good stuff, that's like the fun part. It's like not being able to feel or just feeling horrible is so much of the experience of loss for me. So just bathing in sorrow was like delicious. And it was also helpful because, my dad left behind an apartment full of stuff and we have to move out by the end of the month because the landlady is going to, clean it out and rent it to somebody else. And I could feel that way about every single object in that apartment. Just, I don't want anything to change in that apartment and everything has to go out of that apartment. So I'm really glad I gave that picture away. So one more thing about the 3 marks. Emptiness, as I think of not self as emptiness, but I guess there are lots of different ways to think about it. Impermanence, or sometimes I've heard people describe it as uncertainty and unsatisfactoriness. What happens when, instead of looking at them as a list of 3 separate things, we look at them all together? Like really put them in relationship with each other. The 3 marks. Empty of fixity, full of potential, unsatisfactory if clung to, changing and uncertain. What is everything like? we put those things together? What is this moment like? This path is important to me, and I walk this path because those three things together feel true to me. And liberating and beautiful and unlike anything that I've been told life is. Like, I haven't been told to see things that way by school or the structures that I live in, the external structures that I live in. So even while those things point to what feels true to me, they also point to something that feels beyond me in a way that's inspiring and comforting. Like, there's more than what is known or what is in language or in kind of conventionally accepted reality. There's more. And I can feel it like 360 degrees, that there's more than I know. Or even I know more than I know. I think we know more than we know. And it's all around us. So, thinking again about loss and this feeling that something is missing. Something is missing. So, do I go looking for it? And what happens when I go looking for what is missing or has been lost or has changed, is no longer there? What is that like to go looking for it? Could be as ordinary as, like, I want to go visit my dad in his apartment and he's not there. I know that. Or it could be that I'm looking internally for some kind of experience of knowing that he's there. Or with my child, that I'm looking for a way of connecting that's not available anymore. That's not what my kid wants now. Or that's just not where things are in our relationship anymore. Something new is happening, and I'm looking for something that was there before. So what happens when I go looking for it? What is that like to go looking for it? Just, again, something to be known. That experience of going to look for something that's not there, that you're not going to find. And I ask myself that, and then I ask myself, okay, that's not there. So what do I have? And it was just coming to me yesterday. I have this grief I have this beautiful grief. I have this searing pain. I have this heart that feels like it's been, not metaphorically, but physically broken. And set on fire. That's what I have. That's what's here right now. There's a poem where Thich Nhat Hanh says, what is it exactly? Oh, the tears I shed yesterday have become rain. And I was looking at that poem, and then I found this other line in it that felt more resonant right now, even than that beautiful line. Life has left her footprints on my forehead. And also, somebody just shared this with me yesterday. Something that Rumi said in a poem: our tears improve the earth. So those are my words for today. And I thought, I don't know, maybe, Coral, I don't know, I was thinking we could sit together for a little bit. Does that sound good? But I'm also open. Should we sit? Yeah. Okay. And shall I ring the bell at 8? Yeah. And I'll just invite anyone who has a practice of taking refuge. I'm going to do that right now. And just an invitation to take refuge for all of us, if that's part of your practice. May all beings know peace and ease. May all beings know joy and love. May all beings be free. May the earth itself heal, and may we heal as part of the earth.